Hi, I'm Andy from the Stroud Film Festival, and I'm really pleased to welcome everyone and thank you. I hope you found the film as enjoyable and moving as I did, and delighted that we have with us Serin Deki from Nepal, from Kathmandu. Hi, and that we also have Zara, probably from near Stroud, who is the director producer, and we also have Phil, who is Phil. You are the director of
of operations for Snowland Journeys. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And Claire, as part of the film festival, will manage the question. So if you have a question, please put it in chat, everyone. So remain on mute unless you'd like to ask a question or make a point. So speaker view is the best view to be in terms of seeing what's going on, and we're recording. But we'd welcome people writing their questions in the chat now. So write your question, or maybe just go, we have a question. But do you, Zara, do you want to say something right away to kick us off?
Yeah, just thank you everyone for coming. It's really exciting. We've got so many of you here tonight. So we're really pleased, and also really happy to have Serin Deki with us as well from Kathmandu, who you'll all recognise from the film. She has actually been to Stroud because she came over to the UK last year and spent a few days with us in the village, and actually was her, well, the villages around Stroud were her favourite part of the UK. So you might want to talk to her perhaps about her impressions of the UK, because that's always quite interesting. And Phil, who I run the Snowland Journeys, our NGO, we're co-directors on that. So thanks, and do feel free to ask any questions either about the film, or if you want to know about the ongoing work that we're doing with Snowland Journeys as well, we'll be happy to answer that.
Well, thank you so much. Could we begin with a question for Serin Deki in Kathmandu, please? And could I ask you, at the end of the film, it says you'd like to be a lawyer, and have you made any progress towards being a lawyer? What have you been doing since the film was made, please?
I was supposed to study law after 10, after my class 10, but later I changed my mind and I went to the fashion industry. So now I'm studying fashion designing course in bachelor sixth semester, and 1 year is left now. But I'm also interested on the law also, and I will also study in the future. I will also study the law, and I will also help my village and my villager, and I will also improve my village with the help of my government and others people who want to help my village. So I will also study the law in the future also.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was very special at the end of the film to see where all of you young people had great ambitions for the future, that was very moving. So congratulations on that. Shall we see who has questions? Claire, do you want to connect someone with a question to?
Yeah, well, actually, Liz and David got in there very early, so I think they're very keen to ask a question. So I don't know, Liz and David, if you want to unmute yourselves and ask your question. I don't know what it is.
Hi, it's Liz here. What really impressed me was how open all the students were about their emotions. And if I think about how unemotional kids that have been to public school in this country are, it's an amazing difference. And I wondered if is that just how people were? Is it the way that everyone are educated, or was it a special preparation for the film?
I think that's basically a lot of Well, I think it's two things. It's not necessarily how they are in Nepal at all. People often hide their emotions. I think Serendiki, you'd agree with me that people often don't show their emotions. And so when we started making the film, we actually, part of the reasons that we chose that these three specifically was because they were so kind of open and so trusting and so willing to let us into their lives and into their hearts and to kind of trust us enough to open up. But it was a process, wasn't it, Dickie? We spent about 4 years making the film. So it was definitely a process, I think, as we got to know each other better and they felt safer with us and more willing to open up and tell us their story. And also, I think something that we all wanted to do with the film was to help Himalayan children, not just, we wanted it to be a nice film in its own right, but we also always wanted it to be something that might actually make a difference and children and the villages of the Himalayas. And so that was, again, I think that was like a motivation for them to open up and talk about the story. I don't know, Serendiki, do you want to say anything about that? About why was it that you were so open and how did you manage to be so open?
Our school is like we never went go out from our school, but we all are very shy and we really not talk much with the people who are new. And later in our school, there is a program like volunteer. Others countries people used to come there and they do volunteer there, and I feel curious, because and there is lots of new people and we can learn many new things, and we will know the news of the others countries and all those, because we are only inside our hostel. So it's like we don't know the outside news. We only read in the newspaper and watch TV. So it's feel curious to talk with the others people. So I was like a little talkative, but my English is not that much good. But later I was used to on it and I did better on that, and now it goes like that. So most of the students are very shy and they don't talk much with other people there.
Very brave, very brave. Thank you.
So just to follow on from that, actually, Serendiki, we have a lovely question from Joe, who asked you how your mum is and have you been able to talk to her?
Yeah, my mom is now with me because of her health is getting worse because of some gastric problem. So she is now with me, and we went to hospital and we did checkup, and this coming Saturday we will get the report of her health, and we did some we took some like I don't know the disease that call, and it's like they took some water from here her bodies, and it's the gastric is very worse and gone worse in her health. So we are doing her checkup nowadays, and she is good here nowadays.
Thank you. Yes, that must be hard, but nice. I'm sure it's nice to be together with her, even if she's not well. I have a sort of general question which you could answer, or it maybe Sarah would want to answer it. I don't know. This is from Sarah, and she asked, what preparations did the children and the young people have before they embarked on their journey home? So did you have to do physical training? Did you have to practice using maps and finding your way home? You hadn't been there for a long time. How did you prepare for going home, for the kind of more logistical, physical side of going home?
Yeah, I mean, it was basically this, when we made the film, it was a really new initiative. That was like the second year of the Going Home, that at the time was sponsored by another charity. And they were only the second year that actually went home. And before that, a lot of the children hadn't got to go home at all, just because it is so far, as you can see in the film, and so expensive. And so at that time, it was literally just, you know, there was enough money to send them home, like as in with an expedition guide and the sort of bus from Kathmandu and then the plane up into the Himalayas and then walking and food. So there wasn't a huge amount of preparation at that time. We were working with them from about 2 years before they went home. We started doing like a filmmaking workshop because a lot of the film is self-shot by Serengeti, Nima and Jiwan. And, you know, all credit to them for doing such an amazing job. And so we started off with a filmmaking workshop with basically the whole of that top year. And we opened it up to anyone who wanted to come and learn filmmaking. But we had always cast our kind of 3 main people that we wanted to focus on. And so we did talk to them about it for the film, and we talked about their hopes and their aspirations in those 2 years leading up to the going home journey, and then up to about a year afterwards as well, reflecting on it. And sort of throughout that whole process, we actually noticed that there were lots of things, you know, some of the things you see in the film about it being really tough to walk. It's like the first time when they take that bus journey from Kathmandu to Nepalgunj, they had to stop overnight in like a gas station and have a meal. And that was the first meal in their lives that they'd ever eaten outside of the school grounds. So, you know, there was a lot of really new, kind of quite shocking, you know, extraordinarily difficult emotionally, but also physically, and also just coming out of like that bubble. Like Serengeti said, they do kind of live in that bubble within the school. So there wasn't a huge amount of preparation other than what we were doing with the film, and we wanted to document it as opposed to change the natural process that was happening. So I guess we were there obviously in talking about if any problems came up, and then really kind of in the later stages of making the film and in the follow-on from the film, and we've all stayed really close, we started talking about wanting to really make a difference and looking at the problems that were faced and looking at the physical challenges, the emotional challenges, and thinking about, well, how could we prepare the children better? And there was a moment where when the film was finished, we went to the school and we showed it to every child in the school. And afterwards, it was really a sort of touching moment, because we had really little children coming up to us, like 7 years old, 8 years old, and saying, God, I feel like my parents don't love me. You know, I've been thinking that, but now I've seen, you know, Vicky Miss and Nima and Jiwan, and so if their parents love them, then maybe my parents love me, you know. And it was a really kind of defining moment, because it made us realize that all these kids are growing up feeling the same way. And then we basically, the very small charity that was funding the Going Home journey stopped funding it, and we really wanted to, you know, do something to continue. And so that's where then Phil and I started Snowland Journeys, and now it's very different. Phil, do you want to talk about what we do nowadays? Because we're now responsible for the Going Home, basically.
Yeah, so we felt that not only are the young people not really prepared for this reintegration, this life-affirming, you know, reintegration, that we also need to work with the families and the communities as well. So what we do now is work with the young people from a very young age and get them ready. You know, we all know how important and how great outdoor education is. So we're working with the school to get the young people out at a really young age, just get into their local area and get used to being outdoors and learning all the skills and everything that they can gain from the outdoors, and get them ready for this big ultimate journey home, really, which is, you know, trekking for the first time for 15 days, like Nima, up to the high Himalayas. And it's you know, it's a massive challenge for these young people, especially being at altitude, which their families are. They've not been at altitude, they can't even speak the dialect, you know. So it's a real longitudinal program that we work with them all over this period now, over several years now, to prepare them for this journey. We also need to prepare the families, make sure that they're ready for them. That, you know, you saw the unfortunate consequence of Nima's father not being there. So we need to make sure the family's there, ready to receive them. That's a safe environment for the young people to go to, and also get them ready for coming back, because a lot of our young people, they want to come back to Kathmandu to continue their education. You know, so we need to get them ready for that and get them ready basically to continue their education back in Kathmandu. So it's a big reintegration program now. It's quite a complex picture from what we originally started, but as long as we really want to, you know, give these young people with the skills and the knowledge and the confidence that they can take on and really get up to these places and get back there on their own accord afterwards as well, which is really important. That I think, okay, I've done it once, now I need to get a wee bit more funding, but I can probably do it again. So it's working really well.
It's fascinating. Really interesting insight into sort of your involvement in the process now. And actually, there is a question here from Stephen, and it's about sort of post 16 or post 18 education. And Serendeki talks a bit about what she is doing. So I suppose more generally, you know, how are the graduates from the school supported if they want to continue their studies? Are they supported, or how does that, you know, what opportunities are open to them?
So it's another really hard moment, and it was again something that we became aware of with you know, in the years kind of after their going home journey, and watching Serendeki, Nima and Jiwan go through this process. And it's tough. Basically, Snowland School did go up to 16. They're now having to go up to 18 because the Nepali government has made a regulation that all schools have to educate to 18, either 11 or 18. And so they've chosen 18 because obviously 11 is too young to then let these children go out. But it was the case that they would basically go home to their families for that 3 months, come back, and then they need sponsorship for sixth form college. They can now stay at Snowland, but Snowland is also struggling financially to suddenly have all of those students for an extra 2 years. It's literally just started in the last couple of months. And it is a really, you know, I think it's really great that they can stay there till 18, because it was a really harsh and difficult moment in their lives. You know, first of all, you've got, you know, living in this school building for those 12 years and really hardly ever leaving it, almost, you know, staying in the school compound most of the time, then going, you know, off to the highest inhabited villages in the world to see parents you haven't seen for 12 years. And then 3 months later, right now you're an adult and you have to support yourself and find sponsorship for college and learn how to you know, cook, manage your kind of daily life affairs. And so it's great that they can stay now at Snowland, but they still do need sponsorship really to keep going at Snowland, you know, to or support to keep going. And then there's another really tough moment, which is that most of the students do go on or hope to go on to university education as well. And again, they need sponsorship for that because that's quite expensive in Kathmandu. But what happens when they go to university is that because they're from, you know, ethnic minorities, very often that type of person in Nepal is not in a university. You know, it's more the elite children, and very often they bully the Snowland children because, you know, they're kind of like in an anomaly in a university setting. It's not normal for that society. So, you know, they're really kind of spearheading education for their ethnic minority. So again, right, really tough challenges. And that's again something that you know, I became aware of through making the film and through chatting with Serendeki and Nima and Jiwan and seeing the struggles that they went through, also in the time after making the film. And now it's something that at Snowland Journeys, again, that's something that we're looking to hopefully expand and support them throughout that period of their life as well. And Phil and I would love to like open up a, you know, like a transition house, ideally in Kathmandu, where we could just be there to help them if they are suffering from depression, because a lot of them do get bullied and they go into depression and they don't necessarily know how to cope. So we'd love to, you know, it all relies on funding, and but our kind of one of our big goals is that we would be there with a kind of transitional house with social workers to support them through those years and that transition to kind of independent living as adults.
Really fascinating. And I think Andy at Snowland Film Festival's got a question, which I think is Andy. What would you like to ask?
Well, it is. Thanks. And I wanted to ask Serendeki, you made the film, which was brilliant. I mean, lots of great camera skills. You obviously learned lots, but because of being in the film, you came to Britain. What else have you done or learnt in connection with your involvement in this particular amazing film?
He's saying, what opportunities have you had because of being involved with the film? What experiences and what things have happened in your life because you were in the film?
At first, because of the film, I got to study bachelor. I got to clear my bachelor, and now I'm studying bachelor because of that documentary. And JC, there is a one girl called JC. He supported me for my study, and also we got a chance to go to London, and it's like a dream come true. And we never went outside of our hostel. It's our village was the first one, and then the second one is London, and it was like we never saw the sea from our own eyes, and we saw that one. And also we saw the London what the London Tower and all that, lots of things we saw there, and it was like dream come true, and we enjoyed there lots. And I feel like London is a very systematic, and all the rules and regulation are very strict, and government is, I think, I don't know much about the government, but I think government rules and regulation is you all guys follows very strictly on it. And in Nepal, like we do, yeah, like it's just for a rule, like, they make it, and it's not in the, like we follow it, like that. When we go to the when we have to travel from the bus, we can stop anywhere. We will do hand this, and then they will stop anywhere. But in London, we have to stay in the bus station, then only we got the bus, otherwise there is no chance like that. And I love the fashion in the London, and there is everything is freedom in there. And in Nepal, if we do like my hair will be red color, then people will think that I'm crazy, and uh, like, my mind is out of control, they think like that. So we can't do like crazy what we like to do in our life. We have to go through the societies, what people will talk about us, and what people will think like that. So London is so freedom, there is free air, you can do whatever you want, and people are so friendly. And there is we went into the boat, and some people was like doing like this, I still remember that one. I thought people do, everyone do like this, when even they don't know me. And I also did like this, and hi, yeah, we did like this. So I still remember those people face, who did like this. So it's like, it was very memorable. I will never gonna forget in my life that day in my London. It also we feel shy to talk with people, and that we play in the after documentary, we talk to so many people like this. So I feel now I can talk confidently, not that much, but I can talk, and I can share my feelings like that. So
there was also the Venice as well, wasn't there? You did you were talking to students, human rights students in Venice, cinematic summer school of human rights and rights of the child. And they asked Serendeki and I to go along and have a chat as well. So sadly, because of COVID, Serendeki wasn't able to fly, but I think they've invited her again this year. So hopefully she'll be going to Venice later this year. We're sort of working on that at the moment.
Well, that could be another treat in store. It's a special place, Venice, that's for sure. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. So I've got loads of questions which I'm doing a very good job of responding to. So there's a question from Anita to you, Zara. How did you first find out about the school and become involved in the High Himalayan villages?
It was actually, I was making a film back in like 2012. I used to do a lot of short films for charities, basically sort of promoting the work of charities all around the world. And I was asked to do one about a small charity that was building schools in rural Nepal near in Dading, near Katunje. And so I went over there, and that was my first time to Nepal, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And, really liked the people, and also the very small charity that I was filming the work of. I actually remember sitting on a bus on the way to the schools in Katunje, and they got an email from a school in Kathmandu saying, you know, would you consider helping us? We're a school in Kathmandu. And we had a discussion on the bus and they were like, well, we don't really do Kathmandu, but gosh, this sounds really interesting. And this school educates these children from the high Himalayas. And so I just remember that was the very first time that Snowland School had got in touch with them and said, you know, and asked for help. And then I just stayed in touch with those guys from that charity. And they were the ones that were originally paying for the Going Home journey. And it's, I mean, it was tiny, it was like 2 people, and it's now kind of disbanded because one of them got ill. And so, yeah, it was just, you know, but in a way I feel it was like fate, because this project, I really wanted to make, you know, I was kind of looking for a longer documentary story because it's my first feature documentary, but I've done like lots of short ones, and I was really looking for something. And, you know, when I heard that these kids were just away from their families from like age 4 to age 16, it really touched me. And I think also like in a sense in 2 ways, because I didn't meet my father until I was like about 35. I only met him once. So I kind of can understand and relate to what their experience would be. And at the same time, I grew up with a single mother who I was really close to. So in some ways I understand what it is not to have a parent, but also like the thought of not having had my mum around, you know, it's really kind of mind-blowing and would have been really difficult. So I kind of, you know, I just felt very close to it on a personal level as well, plus falling in love with Nepal and with, you know, with all of the students at the school. And I also think, you know, I think it really comes across in the film as to really how inspiring and how amazing Serengdeki and Nima and Jiwan are, you know, and such yeah, just such inspiring people who are so, you know, so determined to make the most of their life. I think that's the thing that really has sort of touched me, and is something that also Phil and I are working on now, getting that sort of message across to young people in the UK, because, you know, especially since we've now just been through our lockdown, and we've sort of saying that they went through the ultimate lockdown really in that school grounds for almost 12 years. Which is again something with Snowland Journeys that we want to try and help get them out and do sort of more outdoor activities with them in their younger years as well. And yeah, so it was just, you know, a series of events and meeting these young people who were just so inspiring that it kind of filled me full of passion to tell this story, and also hopefully try and do something to improve the situation for children from the Himalayas, because I think, you know, we can all agree that, you know, sending your child away at age 4 and not seeing them again till 16 is incredibly tough on both families and children. And again, something Phil and I are hoping to do is increase that over time.
Yeah, that's what struck me actually, is that it's such a commitment. I mean, from everybody, from the families and from the young people, the children, when they go, they don't really know what's happening, I guess. But, you know, it just struck me that it is a commitment, it's a lifelong commitment to education and to finding another way, and that is really hard. It comes at a cost, I guess, but, you know, the young people who are in your film are, you know, incredibly sort of I don't know, they're just very moving, and they are very kind of articulate, and they, you know, and they're very, you know, they're very generous. You shared so many of your, you know, insights with us. We're very grateful for that. I wanted just to, because we've been joined by Sherab from Nepal, and I think they would like to say something. Do you want to share your thoughts, Sherab? I'm not sure where you are, but
Hi, it's me. My name is Diki Palzum, and I'm Tibetan but from Nepal. So my journey is same like Serengdeki. I currently work as a nurse practitioner in South Mid Hospital frontline, and what Siddiqui have went through is same like I've went through, but it's a next level. I've did my primary in Nepal, but my parents has to sacrifice to send us to India for further education. Like Zara said, in Kathmandu for the higher study is quite difficult. So throughout this movie, I was very emotional. I can understand Siddiqui. And all I can say is continue study, and you'll get to your dream one day. Sorry, sorry.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Siddiqui, are you Tibetan?
Tibetan 말을 Tibetan 하고 이도.
Okay. Yeah. I'm from Jaulakil. I did my primary in Kathmandu. Siddiqui. Yeah. And like for me also, I can, since for after going secondary to India, I can see my parents only once in a year for 2 months, during the summer holiday, 2 months holiday. That's only the time I can see my parents.
Yeah, that's lovely. It's so lovely to, you know, to have you be part of it, having had such a similar experience. And it's, you know, yeah, it is. There are so many schools. So we focused on obviously Snowland School, but there are like 25 schools similarly in Kathmandu Valley, plus obviously more in different countries in the world. So yeah, we would love to do something, you know, highlight the situation and help somehow family connections to be improved over time. I think education is, and I think Serendeki, I know, agrees that the sacrifice is worth it for the education and the life that she now has. But if she could have had, you know, if children in future could have that chance for education as well as family connection, obviously that would be amazing. So we really hope with this film that we can make an impact on that front and make a difference. So thanks for sharing your story.
Really interesting. I've got one more question. I'm aware of the time, which is really a kind of just about the sort of the change in the villages. I mean, are they changing? You know, because obviously there are a proportion of young people who are leaving. This is from Sarah. And also, I suppose she's also asking about climate change, if that has added complications. But I suppose what is the kind of complexion of the villages now? How are they transforming, you know, in this current age?
Yeah, I mean, I could jump there a wee bit. I mean, things are changing very, very slowly, but I mean, we are talking really, really slowly. I mean, there is some new in the district where Serendiki comes from, in Humdara, they're just building roads there, which, when I say building roads, I mean loosely building roads, building somewhere where you don't have to walk anymore, basically. But that's taken many years, and you know the infrastructures in these areas are taking a long time to establish. I mean, Upper Dolpur is just not even on the radar. Now that lifestyle up in Upper Dolpur is going to stay there. It's going to remain the same for the foreseeable future. It's, you know, so most of these outlying areas and these higher areas are just, nothing's going to really change there. But what is really good to see, really powerful to see, you've got the likes of Serendiki and other graduates from the school that are getting better educated. And it's not like other countries where it's more of a brain drain, where they get to the country and they disappear. A lot of our young people that we're working with are determined to go back to these areas and help develop these areas. So, for example, recently we had the first graduate from Snowland School that is graduate as a doctor and is determined to go back to Dolpur as a doctor, and that is the first time that's happened. And you know, he's really passionate about going back there, and we've got to be able to continue to be able to support these type of young people to be able to go there and drive this passion and be the teachers and be the ones that are going to be living there and developing these communities. But unfortunately, until they get the infrastructure to support this, or even communication links, right? There's no mobile phone reception up there, or you may have to walk 3 or 4 days to get a signal or anything. And with no roads, it's very, very difficult. You know, no teacher's going to want to graduate in Kathmandu then go back to Upper Dolpur where there's no sanitation, there's no running water, there's no electricity. So it's all small steps, and part of our aim as Snowland is to try and increase these incremental steps and make our bit difference and introduce solar panels or some type of communication system with the villages. And even if it's for the short period where our young people go home, so they take these communications equipment with them, so the parents can communicate back to the school. So at least once a year, they can speak to some of our young people back in Kathmandu, and so that young people realise, I can speak to my parent, or the technology is there now. It's just getting the finances to be able to do that, which is a big thing. So unfortunately, the Nepali government does change quite a lot. It's going through a transitional phase all the time, and until I think they get the infrastructure and the support really in place, I think it's going to be very difficult to develop a lot of these villages.
Claire, can I just say that on the questions, we did say we'd finish at 10 past, but there seem to be a couple more questions. So can I suggest this, that can we thank everyone for being here this evening and for taking part and for supporting this amazing project and watching this extraordinary film. So thanks to everyone. I'm going to suggest that it's like, no, okay, to kind of, if you've got to go and do something else, please do that. But if you've got a question or would like to chat for a little bit longer, I know that it's very late for Serendeki in Kathmandu, but Phil and Zara are okay for a couple more questions. Is that all right? But can we
no problem.
Can we do a quick round of applause for the participants, please? Even though it's thank you so much for making this possible. So that's the formal ending, but if you want to carry on, I mean, I know, Claire, there's quite a few questions in the chat. So over to you again.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, so then and Mary asked a very pertinent one, which is that she'd like to recommend the film to others. I know it's done the festival circuit for a fair while, but is it available online anywhere?
Yeah, if you go to our website, you can, probably the best one is just have a look at snowlandjourneys.com, and then from there you can be guided as to how you can watch it.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Now let me I'm just scanning to make sure. I think I probably skipped a couple of questions early on. I think there was one question about liaison with families and sort of supporting the children when they go back to their villages, and sometimes that can be a difficult process for them. You know, is there support for them? Or, you know, how does that, is that factored in the way that you help them go back, you know, in terms of just sort of the kind of moral support, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, my background is expeditions primarily, but also in wilderness therapy, and work with a lot of problem young people or disengaged young people, and with very, very similar situations, and you know, having the skills. And it's all about preparing the young people, giving them the skills to know that it's not going to be plain sailing. There's going to be difficulties. So the more we prepare them, and more, you know, psychological wise, and giving them the skills to be able to go on this journey, both physical and mental wise, is very important. We also have social work. We always have experienced social workers working with us that have been involved in Nepali. That they are Nepalis, and unfortunately, there's still quite a problem, or there has been a massive problem in the past of child trafficking. So the social workers that are working with have got experience of working with young people with trauma and young people with issues. So again, they're involved in our organisations, and they're help there to support the young people. And equally, they're going to go to the families as well. So they're going to visit the families prior to the young people. Again, they can't just get on the phone call and just phone them. They physically have to go up to these villages and, you know, trek for 15 days there and another 15 days back to actually visit these villages. And just to ensure that it's a safe environment for these young people to go back, and that the parents are there, the families are there, and to help prepare them and say, look, you got this stranger coming in basically into your family and stuff, and, you know, some of the peers might have a bit of resentment against them. So it's about getting the whole family on side, and, you know, basically getting them ready as best we can for this young person coming in that's going to be talk differently, have different outlooks. You know, so it really, the more we can help that smooth transition, there's always going to be issues, obviously. The more we can do, really, and that's what our big aim of the reintegration program is. It's both sides of the you know, of the field, so to speak. It's not just the young people, it's the families and the communities as well.
It's obviously a huge adjustment for everybody. And actually, I did follow up to that question. There's one from Robin, which is for Serendeki in particular, about whether you learnt your village dialect, which has been talked about a bit already this evening. But when you went back, did you speak dialect, or how did you lapse into, what kind of language did you talk with your family?
We talk our own language, our own mother tongue language, and yeah, they also understand Nepalese language also. So it's I know my own mother tongue, so it's not difficult to talk with them.
I think it's more of an issue for Zara, go ahead.
Yeah, we both can say the same thing. That basically for Nima, it was really difficult because his family didn't speak Nepali. They only spoke the Dolpali, the local dialect, which is quite similar to Tibetan. And so for him, it was quite challenging because the way it was working was like when the young children come into Snowland, they come speaking the local dialects and not Nepali. And so the older students are kind of always reminded of the dialect because there's always, you know, every year there are more young students coming in. But then at the school they're teaching, they're taught in English and they also taught Nepali. And so the sort of knowledge of the local dialect kind of fades to quite a big degree a lot of the time, and it had for Nima. So it was really tough for him. But I think it did sort of come back to him in the time that he was in the village. He was able to communicate, but at first it was quite difficult. And then like these memories of when he was younger, and also talking to the younger Snowland children came back. And nowadays, actually, they've just started doing lessons in the local dialects at school, which is great, you know, keeping that alive for longer. It's going to make the reintegration much easier.
Oh, that's really interesting. Just to move on, there are a couple of questions here which are really about, you know, the kind of comment on the just incredible landscape, you know, and it is really striking, you know, the lake scene in particular. I was just sort of completely blown away, and I just wanted to jump in that lake, I have to say. And I suppose that from the kind of UK perspective, there are questions around development and the kind of threats to the environment, and how that, you know, I mean, from what you're saying, I don't know how much development is happening in the high Himalayas. It doesn't sound like loads to me, but I mean, how does the interplay work between kind of, you know, technology, the future development, and kind of preservation of landscape?
Well, I mean, there's always, especially in the high Himalayas and the area close to Tibet. I mean, China are trying to encroach a wee bit from the north. You've got India trying to encroach into Nepal from the south. So there's always a threat, you know, and you know, there is even talk, we've been hearing now that the Chinese are putting up more masts around Tibet and more towards, you know, encroaching in towards northern Himalayas, then handing out mobile phones to all the locals so they can actually get a bit of propaganda going through that. So I think there always is a threat. I mean, at the moment it is pretty pristine, but development is happening. You know, the people in the high Himalayas can look across right over the border and see roads in Tibet. You know, Tibet has just completely changed from what it was many years ago now. And there's roads going right to the border, and thinking, well, I'd like that as well. You know, they've got tarmac roads and stuff. So I think there's a want there, and unfortunately, you know, being the economy as it is, I think in Nepal, if there is drivers brought in international development thing, now we'll offer you this or offer you money for this and that, then I think that there's always a threat there, and it's very hard to say yes or no, it's not going to happen, but it's happening worldwide, I think, really. And if it's going to boost the Nepali economy and the politicians want to see more money for the country, then it may happen.
And also, I think for the people in the villages, you know, it's a really, this is something I struggled with making the film, because I don't think we've got it right in Western society in so many ways. And I was really concerned that we were, you know, in saying, because the film is quite supportive of education, you know, and I was quite concerned that in making the film and sort of having that angle on the film, that were we then, you know, imposing our Western views on how society should be. And I was really, you know, challenging myself and our filmmaking process to ask those questions and be sure that we really weren't. And actually, from speaking to all the villagers, you know, a lot, I asked every single person that I met about the questions about what they thought should happen to their areas. And the thing is that, you know, there's no sanitation, there's no communication, there's no transportation, there's no electricity, there's no hot water. The life expectancy is quite low. There are no doctors, very few health posts, a lot of, you know, women dying in childbirth. It's like 70, 80% illiterate. I mean, so they all want their lives to improve. And I think that's what we really have to remember is like, it does look beautiful. And again, this was a challenge in the film. It's like, how do we get across how tough life is when it looks so beautiful? You know, if you're filming like in a slum or something, then you can focus on the dirt and the kind of grittiness of it and get across the idea that this is a difficult life. And it was a challenge in the film when you're looking at these beautiful natural vistas to say this is a tough life, because it doesn't look it. But the truth is, it really is. And I think, you know, I felt like, who am I to tell those people to stay in that situation because it's natural, when they have no healthcare and no sanitation and they all want change. So I think it will be a challenge, but, you know, hopefully one that can be navigated in a way that doesn't damage the natural world. But yeah, it's a challenge, but it's also something they want. So it's a really tough situation.
I mean, I think you did articulate that very well in the film. I mean, very kind of delicately, you know, because it was articulated in the kind of, oh, you know, basically, are there going to be any toilets when I go home? I'm not very happy about this, to, you know, carrying hods of hay on the backs of the kind of strong women of the village kind of thing. And I mean, that is clear. It looks beautiful, but it looks tough. You know, that I think that came across very clearly. You know, I think you managed that balance very well.
Thank you.
I think we've got loads of thank yous and people sort of saying how much they've enjoyed watching the film, and you know, to sort of I think we might have come through all the questions, unless there's anything. Oh, hang on, I spoke too soon. Oh, it's just a comment from Jess saying it's very similar to my dad's story. He walked from Tibet to India when he was 6 and never saw his family again. He is very touched by this film. That's like a really nice sort of thought to share. I mean, I think that, you know, I would always say, you know, the beauty of documentaries, that it's very personal and it is of a particular place and time, but it speaks to many people on many levels, and the universality of experiences very much within the heart of your film. I mean, I think maybe we should wrap it up and just say thank you so much to all of you for sharing your thoughts with us this evening, and you know, being so generous with the film and with the insights from it. And I'm sure Andy probably wants to say something as well, but thank you from me.
Thank you very much. I also wanted to particularly to thank Serin Deki staying up so late in Kathmandu, and it's a real privilege. We're very, very, very kind of honoured to have you as part of our event this evening here in Stroud, which I'm very pleased to hear that you've been to before. So that's a moment of connection. But thank you so much to Phil and Zara as well for being part of this special event, and so many issues, so emotional, and so many kind of balances in the world that the film raises about education and about, I mean, people living sustainably with plastic free at kind of 4,000 meters, but without any medical support. Complicated and inspiring. What should we do if you want to get in contact? There's the website for Snowland Journeys, I guess. Is that the best place to go?
Yeah, that's the best one, snowlandjourneys.com. And you'll get through to Phil and I. We're quite easily contactable. So if anyone wants to carry on asking any questions or chatting about the issues, or knows anyone who can support the work that we want to do, then, you know, please do get in touch.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thanks for having us at the festival as well.
Brilliant. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for taking part.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks, Dickie. Thanks, Phil. Bye.